It's a Dan Storper from Putamayou. He's the owner, CEO, as you've heard, and he's also done something really incredible with world music, and we'll get into that as well. And I want to thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
And I wanted to talk about, this all started with a trip to Mexico when you were really young, and I wondered if you'd tell us how that trip sort of changed your life and actually made things a lot nicer for a lot of us in terms
Sure.
of clothing.
Well, actually, when I was about 9, I guess, I started reading these Dr. Dolittle books, which really were about this doctor in England who would travel around the world and talk to the animals. And it was like the first introduction to other cultures and other places. My aunt, who is an archaeologist, had introduced me to the Dr. Dolittle books. And because she was an archaeologist, she would go on excavations around the world. And one summer invited me to come down on a trip to Mexico, where her professor, a guy she worked with and worked for the University of Rochester, was doing an excavation outside of Mexico City at the pyramids called Teotihuacan. And that summer, my uncle also, who's a well-known endocrinologist, was invited to speak in Mexico. So the whole circumstance kind of brought me down. They invited me to come down and travel with them in Mexico. And I was amazed by the place, the people, the crafts. I kind of swore one day. Actually, I went to a little shop in a town. No, it wasn't such a little shop. It was kind of a converted hacienda into it was converted into a retail store, restaurant, antique shop. And it was really beautiful. And I just felt like this is what I wanted to do one day: create a space, travel, collect, bring things back. And fortunately, after majoring in Latin American studies, I was able to take a trip to South America. Fell in love with the crafts once again, 7 or so years later, after I had been to Mexico when I was 16, and really traveled around, explored, and just brought back stuff that I had purchased with my savings that I'd worked in the summers to earn. And people seemed to like what I was bringing back. Mostly crafts, mostly antique textiles and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And so then you took that idea from all my research and you decided you'd open a little store?
Yeah.
Borrowed a little money?
Well, I had earned about $3,000 over the years and spent it. And I bought all this stuff, from baskets to the jungles of South America to ponchos in the highlands. And now I had to find a way of selling it, hopefully earning enough money to be able to go back and continue to create a business. And I spent about a year trying to peddle the crafts. Actually, I went back another time, but twice in the course of a year, and sold it through a variety of avenues, folk art shops, even Bloomingdale's. That was my big opportunity. I sold about $5,000 worth of baskets to Bloomingdale's, and that enabled me to go back. So it really was a year of basically itinerant peddling, pretty much. And in 1975, June 13th, actually, Friday the 13th.
I was going to say, was it a Friday?
It was a Friday. I decided I would flaunt conventional, or not conventional, but superstition, and open up on a Friday the 13th. And I did on Upper East Side on 73rd Street.
And were you called Putamayou at that time?
I was called
as well?
Putamayou at that time. Putamayou is actually a river valley and a region in southern Colombia. It's an area that I spent a lot of time in, where I really became fond of both the beauty of the landscape and the people. It's in the foothills of the Andes. The Putamayou River flows into the Amazon, and it runs along the border between Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, hits the Amazon, and kind of continues onward into Brazil. So it touches on 4 key countries in South America. And I like the name, so I thought it would be appropriate. And a funny story was, basically that Friday I had a party, invited friends, relatives. We actually sold a few things, and Saturday wasn't bad. It was fine, we actually sold a few things. I said, hey, this is great. I didn't know if I was cut out to be a retailer. Monday came, it was raining. This is the third day I was open. 2 people came into the store the whole day. Nobody bought anything. And I was sitting there, and I imagine what it's like being a comedian and people don't laugh, you know. Flop sweat. I was sitting there going, oh my God, I made the biggest mistake of my life. And I think the hardest thing I ever had to do was get up the next morning and come back to work. Because basically, I at that point, I just said, oh, no one's going to ever find me, you know, it's never going to happen.
But it definitely has
Yeah,
happened.
it was, you know, it's certainly one of those, you hear about people, it's certainly not anything like an overnight success. It's been a lot of effort, a lot of work, and much of it has been a labor of love. I love the idea of traveling and bringing back, I guess, products that we design, that I find, that I create, a variety of things, and introducing these products and these other cultures via the products to the American public.
Yeah.